And we are live. Hi everyone, I hope you had a nice day. Sorry for the slight delay for the start of this live stream. So today we're going to go into Hekai, so we're continuing our journey from south to north. We started with Bulangshan and then yesterday Banzang area, and today it will be Hekai. To help me go through this live stream, here will be the cake that I will brew today. This is the spring 2023 Hekai from Manpeng village. Let's first have a look at the leaves. So you can see it's pretty small leaves. They look very much like Jingmai tea, and actually I find that Hekai tea has a lot in common with Jingmai tea. We'll see that over this live stream. Let's not waste any time. Up. So I will tell you a bit how my story started with Hekai tea. This is quite interesting. This is one of my good memories from my time in 2010 in Xishuangbanna. Let's first just check the geographical location. So let's zoom out. This is Xishuangbanna. We're going to zoom in. This is Jinghong. In the west, you have Menghai there. You have these three big flatlands where they grow rice. I will show you a picture of this one. It's a beautiful area. And today we're going to go south. So we will start our journey from Menghun and then drive around there and you go to the mountain. And this is Hekai. You can see it's not very far from the flatland, and yet this area was quite isolated. Let me just give one quick brew, one quick rinse and a brew for this tea, because I need to drink shangpu, because today I spend the whole day drinking ripe pu'er, because I need to write the tasting notes. We're going to release a collection of ripe pu'er for Black Friday. So I have 5 ripe pu'er to try, and I need to write the fitting descriptions. So I was a bit tea drunk by the middle of the day. These are quite powerful ripe pu'er that we're gonna feature, so I hope you will enjoy them. I'm happy that finally I found a good connection for ripe pu'er. And so my story in Hekai starts with those hornets. I have a fond memory of that day because I took the bus to Menghun and then somehow found my way to Hekai village. And at that time it was quite late, it was getting late. And I met a nice guy at the bottom of the mountain, and he took me up during the night, and they were preparing those big bamboo, like the inside, they had those big bamboo tubes stuffed with some herb. They lit it on fire and created a lot of smoke. And that's when I learned that we were going to collect some hornets in their nest. So we went through the hornet's nest, walking through the smoke, and it's quite a dangerous job because these things sting. I got stung once on my finger and it went big like this. And we went there picking the hornet, and you can see, so they are just stunned by the smoke, and you can hear the eggs making that sound. So it's the larvae, and you pick them with chopsticks, you put them in some other bamboo tubes, and you keep them like this. Maybe put them in the refrigerator, and then the next day you can just cook them. So you just stir fry them. The larvae taste like the, you could say like the white of the egg, and The hornets are very crispy, very nice with soy sauce. We can still have it in Xishuangbanna in some barbecue restaurants. And so this is what Manpeng village looked like back in the day, back in 2010. So you can see it looked quite impoverished, you could say. You could see lots of kids walking barefoot. And interestingly, a lot of people in Xishuangbanna have a prejudice against those people living in Hekai. It seems for a long time the area was very secluded, and at that time people were quite afraid of strangers. So it was a bit awkward to go there because people would like walk away from you, they would avoid eye contact, which was quite unusual at the time because most of the ethnic groups are very friendly. You can see what the wok looked like. That was like a typical processing unit at the time, and every farmer would make their own tea at home. So I remember I spent a day in the village making friends and walking around, and I was really amazed by this landscape. It was a bit misty that day. It was in summer, and well, it was one of the biggest tea gardens that I'd visited, and it is actually the biggest tea garden in Xishuangbanna. It's only slightly behind Jingmai in terms of surface. Jingmai has like maybe 700 hectares of ancient tea gardens, and I saw in some sources that Hekai is 500 hectares. And at that time you could also see these kind of mystic signs sometimes along some random paths, and the roads weren't really that good. So okay, let's go again. Let's spend a bit of time on Google Earth. So you have this big plateau, and this plateau is occupied by the Dai. So back in the day, like 100 years ago, Xishuangbanna was a Dai kingdom. It was a vassal state to China. And so the Dai ethnic group, they occupied all the flat lands where the most fertile soil is. And in the hills, like in that big spaceship-like mountain range that we've been studying in the past 3 days, it was all ethnic groups. So you had the Bulang, you have the Hani, and you have the Lahu. And so Hekai, so in the north of that range, you can see you have this lake, and Hekai is northeast of this lake, almost running parallel. This is all Lahu territory. And it seems at that time they were, back in the day, they were kind of ostracized by the Dai and also in conflict with the Hani, which led them to have a more secluded lifestyle with not much trade going on. And it's interesting because the Lahu are Christians, and so I think it's the only ethnic group that has been successfully evangelized, probably during the 18th or 19th century. And having this group accepting priests going to their town, it's probably a sign that they were really a minority in that area, because you can see the Dai, the Bulang, they are Buddhists. Then the Hani, they are animists, so they say they have no religion, they have lots of beliefs, but no specific religion. And so somehow the Lahu got probably seduced by these missionaries who visited the areas. So it's also another clue, you could say, that they were isolated from the other groups. Okay, so now if I started late, it's because I had a little technical problem and I haven't found a quick workaround, so I will have to do it that way. It doesn't accept too many pictures. So our story will start in Menghun, because every time I go to that southern Menghai, I like to stop in Menghun, specifically in that market. This is the big wet market, you could say. And you can see here you have lots of tents and you have delicious barbecue there. So I really recommend, if you're in the area, I really recommend you stop there and try some barbecue. You can see it's a very lively market. You can have great, this is a liangban migan, so a kind of noodle soup salad, a specialty. And you can see all the barbecue, so you have fish, you have pork, you have beef jerky, all what you like. And so once you're stuffed with good food, you can start your journey. So you can see Hekai is about in the background, and it's a big flat land. At that time it was I think they were towards the end of the rice harvest. You can see this rice has been harvested. They were still filling trucks with rice. So it's a very tiny road, and it goes for a couple of miles. You can see this is a dragon fruit plantation. Quite interesting. It looks like a grassy plant, like a cactus or something. And you can see in the background there's a Dai village. You can know it's a Dai village by the temples. They like to build temples in the villages. And also at the entrance of each Dai village you have that kind of gate, with the name of the village written. And so once you go up towards Hekai, you get this beautiful landscape, this beautiful flat land. So I will have to change the image again. And then we start getting into Hekai. Let me just have a cup of tea first. The road is quite good nowadays. It used to be inaccessible, you could say, back in 2010 when it was raining too much. And at that time maybe the T-buses didn't have the big SUVs like they have now. But now it's quite pointless to have an SUV because most of the roads are really good in Xishuangbanna. And you can see that in Hekai you have really big trees. I would say among the biggest trees in Xishuangbanna, they are probably in Hekai or Laobanzang, quite the same. But you have a lot more of them in Hekai. So some of them are exposed to the sun and others are not. We can keep going. You also have some smaller trees, but the small trees are not very numerous, you could say. It's not like in Jingmai. That's something I will talk about in a minute. And if you look at the leaves, they look pretty small. They look about the same size as the leaves in Jingmai. So it's you could qualify it as Zhong Xiao Ye Zhong, medium small size varietal. But don't get deceived by this. Having the same leaf size doesn't mean it's the same varietal as in Jingmai. So you can have both Zhong Xiao Ye Zhong with the same name, but actually their genetics might be different. It would be interesting to have a genetic profiling of the different areas. I think I read a paper a while ago about this. And they said that actually the ancient tea gardens in all of the mountains had recognizable gene profile, and that might be a technique to guarantee the authenticity of cakes. You could maybe make do a genetic analysis of the leaves, and that would give you the genetic profile, and maybe you could relate it to a specific mountain. And something also you notice there's a lot of moss and parasitic plants and lichen growing on the tea trees. I'm not sure what this means. I could guess it means it's a fairly wet environment, because you don't have this in every mountain. And I took lots of pictures of these in Hekai because it just spiked my curiosity there. And you can see you have really, really big tea trees there, big like this really. So this is quite impressive. So if you're visiting Xishuangbanna, Hekai can be a good destination because it's fairly accessible if you can hire a car, and you will really see big tea trees. I know some people are kind of crazy about seeing big trees, and when they come to Chiang Mai, they're a bit disappointed because in Chiang Mai the tea trees are really not as big as these. So does it mean that the gardens there are older? It's not sure. It could be a difference in soil fertility. As I just said, maybe the varietal is different. So despite having the same leaf size, maybe this one is growing much faster. That's a possibility. Now I tried to check. I have a lot of books downstairs in my tea shop, and I tried to get more information. Unfortunately, in the Chinese books, really, you get a lot of very generic information, and you don't have a lot of very compiled and digested useful information. Like you'll have huge tables with the average temperatures, the precipitations and things, but it gets quite tedious to go through the book because it's kind of the same structure for all the mountains, and they don't really explain much. They just throw the data in your face. But what I found in one of the books is that the Lahu have been there for 500 years in that mountain. I'm not sure how they can assess this, probably according to testimony, so it's probably inaccurate, but it means that it's likely the ancient tea gardens are older than the Lahu. And apparently, according to the book, they say before the Bulang populated the area. So you could imagine it was maybe the Bulang who are now in Bulangshan, in Laumanhe, who lived there. Actually, we have the same story about Chiang Mai. They say the Bulang planted the tea in Chiang Mai, and then the Dai migrated to the area and pushed the Bulang back to another mountain. So it could make sense because the Bulang are the real tea makers. You don't have tea gardens in every Lahu village. And the Lahu are quite scattered all across southern Yunnan. We have some close to Chiang Mai. But one thing you can notice here is despite being very big trees like this, so they are surely like over 100 years old, okay? And yet they are very densely planted. And this is one feature of Hekai. Rarely do you see such a high density of ancient tea trees. Look at this. And you can see that the trunks are growing straight, so it means that at one point they didn't prune the tea trees. They let them grow straight, because if you prune regularly it will branch out from the bottom. So it probably, maybe a bit of the study of the shape of the tea trees will give us clues regarding the history of those tea trees. And so if they didn't cut it, maybe they wanted it to grow tall like this. Maybe the gardens were abandoned for a long time. You know, maybe we could imagine that at some point the territory was contested by different ethnic groups, and maybe the tea gardens were not cared for. And yet that strong plantation density, yeah, that's quite puzzling. Because if you look at, even if you look at wild tea trees, or if you go to Iwu in the forest, you will have some groups of big trees like this, but they aren't that close. So it was really, at some point there was some intense activity there of tea planting. And yet they planted densely, but they didn't prune them, so they probably wanted them to grow tall. Maybe they had their own conception of tea growing, and they thought like having the tea trees grow tall, maybe cut the lateral branches will help make better tea or make more tea. Who knows? In every area you can ask people about the farming techniques, and people will have different opinions. Now generally when you plant at high density like this, it means you're aiming for a high yield, and so you want to keep the trees short, so that you need less energy to pump the water up the trunk, and so it will grow faster. If you look at like the oolong tea plantations in Fujian, they are pruned really short. Here is another look at some tea leaves. So some of the tea leaves are big, so just like in Laobanzang, there might be two varietals, but when I look at Hekai Maocha, it mostly looks very similar to Chiang Mai. Okay, let me change this again, and we will just go back to Google Earth. We'll go back just to Google Earth quickly, and then we will visit the factory. So you see what the journey we made in picture is going there through that road. Then you have those new villages. Interestingly, just before the advent of modern poverty and these gardens having a high value, they were very poor at that time, and so probably the government decided to create some new villages in the flat land. Maybe they could help work as workers in the rice fields or something like that, be more connected to the road, maybe find work in Menghai, you know. Generally in Southeast Asia there is that policy of taking those semi-nomads, or let's say underdeveloped tribes, from the hills to a roadside. We saw that in Thailand, in Laos, and I guess the policy was the same in Xishuangbanna. So these villages actually, some of them are belong to the Lahu who came down, but fortunately they kept their house. So these are the old villages. So here you have Manpeng, which is the village where this tea comes from, and in the east you have Manmai. The most famous village is Manmai. Some say the biggest trees and the most expensive tea is in Manmai. But we get the tea from Manpeng because I think it's really good quality. They are really nice people, the producers. And I would say for more expensive tea, I have other options. If you want a more expensive tea like this, you can go to Bakanoi, for example, and you'll find kind of some similarities, but maybe with more intensity. And I'm not sure actually how true that is, because I don't know exactly where the limit is in terms of garden ownership between those two villages. But a lot of those big trees that I shot, it's just here. You have kind of a ridge here, and this is pretty high altitude. This is almost 1800 meters. Here actually you have an observation post, and you can see everywhere. For example, over there must be Pasha, and then so over there is Jinghong. Then you will have Menghai. You will see the flatlands of Menghun, and then in the south you will see, I guess you can almost see the mountains of Myanmar, or maybe not, but you will see the peak of Lao Banzang, and maybe some parts of Bulangshan. Okay, because so let's say if we're going south, if you continue on that road, so there's not much along that road, and you arrive in Manpeng. Administratively, Manpeng is part of Hekai, but when grouping in terms of tea tastes, I would group Manpeng along with Lao Banzang because they are much closer from each other. And so here, by looking at the pictures, you can see all the tea trees. And when you look at such a plantation density, you could think these are plantation tea, but it's not. Actually, if you go to the mountain, they don't have that many small trees. And it seems that after the boom of pu'er tea, they didn't even really extend the tea gardens. They already have plenty of gushu there. Now you can see, if you compare to Jingmai, I would say the forest cover is a bit lighter here. A lot of the tea trees are exposed to the sun. I have yet to understand what it really means for the taste of tea. Generally, the higher the altitude, the lighter the forest cover. Let me just check the comments. Okay, so I'm happy that you're all drinking some nice tea now. yeah, I will just show you now the tea factory. So let's take another look at the fresh leaves in Hekai. And I guess this picture was taken in summer. Why is it so? Because yeah, well, first because they were harvesting the rice, so you do that in summer there, and usually they grow twice a year in the lowlands. That's why the dye were so rich. The soil is very fertile. But the second reason why I think this is you have a lot of red. You have a lot of red leaves in that blend, and this is a natural variation, which occurs mostly in summer or during the rainy season. And from that natural variation, you can make the varietal, you know, the purple tea. And lots of vegetables have this variation, you know. Nowadays in the supermarket, you can find purple potatoes, purple carrots, purple tomatoes. But anyway, yeah. Well, you can see it really looks like Jingmai material. And there, what's interesting, they don't have a lot of huge factories. I feel like every household makes their own tea. Well, you must say they really have a lot of that tea. At the beginning, the trade was hard with them because they were on the road to Laobanzang, so they got a lot of traffic, but they were very shy. And so they mainly dealt with the Menghai tea factories. They sold to wholesaler. I remember I spent one day back in 2010 with a Maucha collector. So he worked for a fairly big factory in Menghai. And let's say the master blender of the factory wanted like 100 kilo of that tea, 200 of that tea. Well, he drove, that guy drove his pickup truck up the mountain and collected the tea for the factory. Now, of course, we all have WeChat, so it's a bit more convenient. And I guess they have a more developed logistics. But what I noticed is most of the houses there make their own tea. And maybe they sell also a part of their fresh leaves to some bigger factories because they really produce a lot there. Just the same as Jingmai, you could say. And the production is not necessarily very developed. Like you can see in Jingmai or in Laomana, people will tend to invest in top tier factories, you know. But here they just keep it quite casual and traditional. You know, they rely a lot on even the rolling. Like you don't have rolling machines everywhere. A lot of people do the rolling by hand. So it's quite interesting. And yeah, we can have another view. This is our cake. Maybe we can try to take another peek at this cake, because this is the cake when it was just out of the factory. You can see nowadays the leaves are not that green. Now, of course, my light is a bit redder here, but the tea has aged a bit after 6 months. And so, yeah, what can we see? Well, quite a lot of stems actually, as far as spring tea goes. Interesting. And also what kind of looks like Huangpian, but this was because the season was very dry. So when you have dry season like this, you just get a lot of yellow flakes in the batch. Now the village really has the villages. So this is Mannong. They made it really beautiful now. So you could say it's very clean, but also quite traditional. I really like going to this place. And you know, these people, they are still a bit shy, you could say. Like they don't talk a lot. They are quite introverted. And I like this actually. You just go there and drink tea. You don't need to do any small talk, you know, you just drink tea. And I feel like they're not the kind of people who will cheat you to make more money. They don't really do that trade of sourcing tea from outside. At least that's how I feel it. I hope they don't. So this is the entrance of the farmers we work with. And again, since they are shy, I didn't take a lot of pictures inside his house. but his house is very nice, and I love the walk with the stairs like this. I don't know if it's very practical to have the stairs just by the walks, but anyway, they do a good job there at making nice tea. So this is Nado, this is the farmer we work with, who is a good friend of my wife's now. And that day it was my wife took the pictures. Actually, I didn't go on that trip, so they went to pick tea. And that's when we shot the video, one of the video I posted this year about the tea farmers of Xishuangbanna. And she took them to a scenic spot. So again, you can see this is what the village looks like nowadays. You can see they have bigger houses with those blue roofs. So I don't know, some salesmen must be making a killing there selling those blue roofs. I think it's supposed to maybe heat up less than a dark roof. And yeah, that's it for the pictures actually. Okay, so what else can I say on Hekai? Yeah, we haven't talked about the taste. I'm sorry, because I'm not drinking that much tea now. So I would say Hekai is the softest tea, at least in southern Menghai. Maybe you could say Nano. In some ways it can compare to Nano. It's quite a soft tea, but it also compares to Jingmai. When you look at the leaves, actually, just the day before yesterday, a cousin from Jingmai came to visit, and I was brewing Hekai tea, and she thought it was Jingmai tea. You get that same kind of honey fragrance in Hekai tea, although I would say you don't have the orchid fragrance. Tea from Tappingzhang would still be different, but maybe this kind of tea could pass as a tea maybe from Mangjing, you know, or from areas around Jingmai. And interestingly, they are about the same price nowadays actually, Jingmai tea and Hekai tea. I think in the past Hekai used to be more expensive, and I don't know why. Somehow the price never increased as much as in other places. But if I were a big factory making high quality products, that would surely be a staple for the blends. If you want to make high quality blends, I would recommend Hekai. That would be like your soft base, you know, and you could add maybe a bit of flamand earth, a bit more punch, and maybe if you want a more interesting fragrance, maybe you could add some Mongsong tea to get more of the high pitched fragrance, or maybe you could actually try a Hekai Jingmai blend. That would be interesting, because the two teas are similar. And if you have the opportunity, maybe that's what you can do. You can do a side-by-side tasting of our Jingmai Gulan with this tea. Now, in Hekai, the tea trees are much bigger on average than Jingmai. Does it mean the tea is better? I'm not sure. In a way, I feel Jingmai tea has more bite. Yeah, I would say Hekai is softer and more in the mouth feel. But I like Hekai. Why do I like Hekai? I'm trying to put Hekai around Nano and Pasha. It could be like in the middle, but with a bit more of a soft touch, a more silky soup maybe. It's not so mineral. Yeah, exactly. Hekai tea is not mineral. It's not mineral in the way that Laomane or Banzhang tea is, nor in the way that Mongsong tea is. It is quite soft. Now if you go more to the west, I can show you. Sorry, I have this here. If you go to the west, there's a place called Bada here. I don't like the tea from this place. I feel like I've never had a really good tea from that place. But it's a staple for the blends because it's quite sweet and it doesn't have any particular trait. It just tastes like four, I would say. So you get that Bada base, and you add it. And why am I saying this? Well, because in some way the Hekai tea reminds me, it has that Bada soft character, but it's more interesting than Bada tea, definitely. Because it's still close to that Banzong area and also gets those traits. And the Zhongxiao Yezhong, usually the smaller leaves, they mean more fragrance. And yeah, you can definitely feel this when I smell this. It could be Jingmai tea, honestly. But the difference in minerality, I think, would put them apart. And still, Hekai tea would be a tad bit more bitter. But both Jingmai tea and Hekai tea would be quite astringent, I would say. Jingmai tea will be more astringent, and I think that's why I would call Jingmai tea more mineral, because... Hello? Yeah, sorry, we got, again, a VPN crash, but it's fine. No, but actually you don't need to blend that tea. That's a very well balanced tea like this. And if you like Jingmai tea and want maybe to get your foot into Menghai tea, maybe Hekai can be the gate, you know, even geographically. When I go to Hekai from Jingmai, I don't even need to go to Menghai because you see you have Jingmai Shan here. Just take the road there, go to the big plateau, and just take that road and I go straight to Hekai. I go sometimes just to visit my friends and have some good tea in the mountain. So yeah, I recommend you try Hekai tea. Now, maybe it's not the most crucial of the tea to try. It's not the most characteristic tea from Menghai, I would say. But when you're exploring Menghai, it's still the largest producing area. 250 tons, I found that statistic on the web. 250 tons a year. The whole Jingmai mountain is at 1,000 ton, and the Gushu is about 300 ton in Jingmai. And they say there they have 250 ton. So this is still a consequent amount. And so I guess if you... Well, I guess also if you enjoy those premium mislabeled Lao Banzhong, you will probably have some Hekai tea in it because it has the depth, the depth actually. It's less intense than the Banzhong area, that's for sure, but it has the depth for this. So, did I forget anything? The altitude, yeah, so let's just check again. Again, I was surprised by, it's not too hilly, it's actually relatively flat, yeah, not like Tapingjiang, but if you look, the top was the top I measured here was at 1800 meters, and if you look at the bottom, you're around, I think you have tea gardens down to like 1400. I'm still at 1600 here. You can see they have tea trees going down there, down slope. So again, when you're buying tea in the mountain like this, don't cheap out, don't try to bargain too much with the farmers, because they have gardens at high altitude and at low altitude, and they are all gushu, you know. But if you start talking too much about lower prices, they will say okay, and they will give you the lower altitude tea. So what I usually I do is I give a premium, I give a bit on top of the normal price to make sure that I get the best tea that they can make. And I find you get a better price for value this way, because not all gushu is equal, and there the altitude will definitely be a factor. So it's worth paying like 10% more just to make sure you get the good stuff. And yeah, that's about what I have to say about this area. Let me just check the comments. Yeah, you love seeing different people's tea factory. I'm the same, because all the factories have their quirks, you know. So I'm quite curious, and this is generally how I this is generally how I decide which house I'm going to enter in, actually. I just look at the drying house and the things, you know, how if it's well arranged, if it's clean. So that gives you clue as to the conscientiousness, you could say, of the farmer. And I like to visit big factories. Sometimes I just visit factories which don't make tea. Last time in Fengqing, I was visiting the factory for the hetao, like some kind of nuts. I don't remember the name in English, but they have lots of it there. And it was a really big factory with lots of quirks. So it's so great to see the tea factories. But I don't always take pictures, it depends, because sometimes I feel like taking pictures can be a bit intruding, especially with introverted people like this. What species are the big dark green wild trees in the forests on the mountain? I don't know. I'm sorry, it's quite a shame because I haven't really studied extensively extensively the name of the plants. I should do that. I think that the big trees are ficus. It's like huge ficus, like we have those in Jingmai. So usually when you see those big trees coming out of the forest, they are the ficus, but you have a couple of those. Maybe that will be the subject of one video later. So yeah, that's about it for today, I think. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again. Tomorrow, very likely. And so tomorrow I think we will do Pasha, okay? Because Pasha, we can check. Pasha is not so far from here, and in terms of taste, it has similarities with that Banzong area. Pasha is just there. So we're going from south to north. So the next one is Pasha. Okay, so we'll see that tomorrow. So thank you for watching, and have a good tea at home. Have a good tea session.